In the summer of 2006, sports journalist Dale Hausner interviewed Mike Tyson. After the interview, they took a photo together, which was posted to social media. Just a few days later, Dale would be arrested and charged for a string of killings. This is the story of convicted serial killers Dale Hausner and Samuel Deitman. Dale Sean Hausner was born on February 4th, 1973 in Arizona. For a year and a half, while high on meth, he and Samuel would go on a shooting and arson spree throughout the Phoenix area, which would eventually lead to numerous convictions. Their crimes coincided with another serial killer in the area known as the Baseline Killer, which made solving the crimes and identifying the suspects very difficult for law enforcement. Former Phoenix police detective Clark Schwarzkopf, who investigated the cases, had this to say about the difficult task he was under. Putting two prolific serial killers with opposite motives, were unheard of. I don't think you could write a crime story, even a fictional crime story, where you could go, can I put two serial murderers in the same location and pull it off? But the city of Phoenix was living it. Working the case was a 20 to 22-hour job each day. The couple of hours I slept, I could get in, was the fear of somebody I know or somebody that I happened to run across being gunned down and left there to die. All right, I'm going to try to piece together the timeline of the crimes, and it's a lot, and a little bit was confusing, so I'm doing the best that I can as far as the times, the people who were involved, and that sort of thing. So Dale and Samuel were charged with murders that took place between May 2005 and July 30th, 2006. So during the murders, Dale was 33 years old and working as a custodian at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. And he also worked on the side as a boxing journalist for outlets Ring Sports and FightNews.com. I couldn't find a lot about Samuel did for work, but it does appear that the two were roommates during that time. And it's also important to mention, though it does not excuse his crimes, in 1994, Dale and his wife were involved in a car accident where their car plunged into the water. His two sons drowned in that accident after Dale was unable to fasten them from their seatbelts. After that, he fell into a deep depression, and many think this is where the trouble with him began, as he started drinking heavily and got into a lot of trouble. So before Dale and Samuel even met, Dale had already committed murder, and then the two began living together, and that's when their random drive-by shootings seem to have ramped up. Most of the victims were killed by either a .22 rifle or a small gauge shotgun, but one of the victims was stabbed to death while one of the two distracted the victim. So here's a breakdown of who they killed or injured, when the incident occurred, and their name. And I apologize in advance if I pronounce any of these victims' names wrong. There's only so much I can do. There's not anywhere I can double check to make sure these are pronounced right. So I apologize if I get anyone's name wrong. So the first confirmed victim was Tony Mendez, and that took place on May 17th, 2005. After that, just a few days later, May 24th, Reginald Remillard was killed. And on June 29th, David Estrada was killed. There was a bit of a break there, and then he picked back up in November. So on November 11th, Nathaniel Schaffner was killed. And on December 29th, 4 people were shot. Barbara Whitner, who survived, Jose Ortiz, who was murdered, Marco Carrillo, who was murdered, and Timmy Tordai. He was actually shot in the back, but he did survive. Then just the next day, December 30th, Clarissa Rowley was shot. She survived, but unfortunately she was pregnant at the time and she miscarried the child. So all of that took place in 2005. Now in 2006 is when it's believed that Samuel joined in and when he moved in with Dale. I'm not sure the exact timeline of when he moved in versus when they started the killings together, but we do have a timeline of when the killings did start. So on May 2nd, they shot 2 people. This is going to be the hardest one for me to pronounce. I apologize. Kibli Tambadou was shot in the back by Hausner and survived. Claudia Gutierrez Cruz was killed by Samuel alone. On May 17th, Timothy Davenport was stabbed in the back and slashed in the face by Samuel while Dale distracted him. He survived. On May 30th, James Hodge was shot and he survived. The next day, on May 31st, Miguel Rodriguez was shot in the side and survived. And also the same day, Daryl Davies was shot on the left side and survived. On June 8th, there was two big arsons across two different Walmarts. They ranged in $7 to $10 million worth of damage. There was nobody killed in those, but those were the biggest arsons that they did during their spree, so I wanted to put that in the timeline. On the same day, Paul Patrick was also shot, and he survived. So then a few days later, June 11th, Elizabeth Clark was shot in her left hip, and she survived. June 20th, Frederick Sena and Tony Long were both shot, and they both survived. On July 1st, Diane Bean and Jeremy Ortiz were both shot and survived. So you can see that they're killing multiple people on the same day, and many of these people were not shot at the exact same time. One was shot, and then a few hours later, another was shot. So it wasn't like they were just walking together. Some of them were, but for the most part, they were not. July 3rd, Joseph Roberts was shot and survived. July 7th, David Perez was shot and survived. On July 8th, there were two shootings. Ashley Armenta, who was shot in the back of the head, and she survived. And Gary Beege, who also survived. On July 11th, Michael Cordray survived. On July 22nd, Raul Garcia survived. And on July 30th, the final death was Robin Blasnick, and she was just 22 years old, and she was killed by Dale alone. That was the last of the known and shootings that have been attributed to the two. So I mentioned that they also had set some fires throughout all that time. There were several fires, trash cans, palm trees, structures, those types of things that were set on fire. I'm not going to break down all those because most of them, like I said, none of them had any fatalities, and they were all pretty insignificant. But one thing I do want to mention is that they did kill 10 dogs and horses and shot many others during that time as well. So there was a bit of just torture of humans and animals alike. And that's terrible to say, but that's what happens when you have somebody that serial killers typically will have victims that are animals first. So that kind of fits with that, unfortunately. There were also two other murders which have been linked to Dale, but he was not charged with those or convicted of either, but they are two that I want to mention. One is the shooting death of Tony Mendez, which took place on May 17th, 2025, and Reginald Remillard on May 24th, 2005. I don't know why those were never linked to him. It probably has something to do with the other serial killer that was active during that time. Or maybe there just wasn't evidence. I don't know, but those were two that have been linked to them, but like I said, they weren't convicted. So like I said, the last known victim of Dale's was July 30th, and he was apprehended on August 3rd, which is just like days, not long at all. I got to look at the exact count. I don't think they're, 3-4 days. And we know that he interviewed Mike Tyson 2 or 3 days before he was apprehended, according to Mike Tyson's timeline. So there is a chance that he killed someone after he interviewed Mike Tyson. There's also a chance that he killed someone the same day he interviewed Mike Tyson, maybe a few days before. That timeline is so short and without exact dates. So I don't know if anyone ever recorded the exact date that he interviewed Tyson, but that's really terrifying to think of, like, how short that was. It wasn't like he killed these people and then years later interviewed Mike, or like interviewed Mike and then years later killed all these people. It was literally while he was active. And we can listen to this clip of Mike Tyson actually talking about Dale talking about the experience and what happened after, well, he appeared on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show in 2017.
I go do an interview. This is a sports writer, so I have my people call me up and say, you got a reporter. Meet him at the gym in Phoenix. So I meet him at the gym. I'm talking to the guy. The guy's a really small guy, but really nice guy. I'm talking to him. And so 2 days go by, 3 days go by. I'm in the gym, and the gym is surrounded with cops, like SWAT. They're surrounded. And the cop sergeant wanted to talk to me. And I said, what the hell did I do? Who ass did I grab last night? I didn't know what happened. But then I said to myself, I'm thinking, hey, if I grabbed somebody's ass, it wouldn't be the feds coming to get me. It would be some rinky-dink cop or some lawyer, you know?
Right.
And so I said...
The ass police.
Yeah. So I came outside, and I was talking to the guy, and he showed me the picture of me and the guy because it was on his website. And he said, do you know this gentleman? And I said, well, sir, I don't know. I was promoting a fight. If I must have said something to him, if I offended him, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And he said, no, he liked you, Mr. Tyson. He didn't like the 28 people that he shot and the 8 that he killed.
You got interviewed by a murderer?
Yes. He was the baseline shooter from Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Dale Hausner.
Oh, my God.
All right, now I can talk about what actually happened once he was arrested. So Dale was charged with 88 crimes, and he was convicted of 80 of those crimes. He never admitted to any of the crimes. He maintained his innocence. He claims that it was Samuel who took his car and took his guns, and he did the killing. But we know from the timeline that they didn't have any connection at that point. Some of them were, like I said, before him and Samuel even came together. He held a press conference while he was in jail and talked to the media, which I've never seen that before. I thought that was kind of wild that they even allowed it. But he maintained his innocence, and he even attempted suicide while he was awaiting trial. He ended up getting charged with the following things. So he was charged with 6 counts. I'm sorry, he was not charged. He was convicted. He was convicted of 6 counts of first-degree murder, 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, 15 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of arson of occupied structures, 9 counts of animal cruelty, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit animal cruelty, 24 counts of drive-by shooting, and 4 counts of unlawful discharging of a firearm. I did not do the math, so I hope that the source I got that from added those up correctly, but that's what it says he was convicted of. He was sentenced to death, and they were able to overall identify 8 that were killed and 19 people that he injured, he or Samuel injured. And just in case you're wondering, Samuel received life without parole. I think that goes to show you that it really looks like Dale was kind of the mastermind of all this, and Samuel was sort of the side piece, so to speak. It also helped that Samuel testified against Dale, so I believe he probably did that in exchange for not getting the death penalty. But again, I don't know those details. That's just my guess, just by the way the courts kind of work. When Dale was convicted, he had told his lawyers not to oppose the death sentence, and he waived many of the appeals that he was legally allowed to have because he wanted to be put to death, quote, as soon as possible. He even wrote a letter to a local Arizona newspaper claiming that he felt the state would never put him to death and that he was a little bit desperate to be put to death. And on June 19th, 2013, he was found to have overdosed in his prison cell after hoarding sleeping pills. So he had gotten them, hid them. He actually got some pills from his cellmate and from other people in prison and took those pills. He was pronounced dead at the hospital, and it was later ruled a suicide, and they were able to identify that he likely had about 50 sleeping pills in him, which is a lot. After his death, Dale's brother Randy appeared on Monster in My Family. It was a TV show, and he spoke about his brother's crimes. He went as far as apologizing to the victims on behalf of his brother, and he spoke about the end of his brother's life, which we can hear now.
I gotta admit, at that time I shed no tears. I actually felt relief. I said, it's over. Dale never took responsibility for what he did. It never seemed like he showed to me regret for what he did.
And that's a wrap on episode 4. So I've done a little bit of different things. So I did, the typical John Jones timeline, athlete doing crime. I did one where the athlete was the victim of the crime. I did, what did I do for my third one? Oh, I did the military angle. And here I've done a journalist now that was involved in some crime. So I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of different. I don't want it to be the same every single week. I'd love to hear what you guys want me to talk about. I have a few in the works that I really want to do. Some take a lot more research. Some I'm waiting for some updates on the cases to happen. But again, leave me in the comments. Tell me which ones you want to hear about. I have one that I keep getting comments about, so I may work on that one next. We'll see. So thanks for listening again, and like and subscribe, leave reviews. All that helps for me to eventually, hopefully, monetize this and make some money. So right now I'm just doing it for fun and for the love of crime, which sounds terrible, but it just is what it is. So again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.